So taking a closer look then at the second agreement, there you stress that the new agreement includes a planned extension for stability testing and an option to license LaminarPace. Can you explain plan extension for stability testing to investors here?
Yes, absolutely. For any precious compound, you need to know its stability. You need to know how it's keeping over time. And here we are speaking of therapeutics. We are speaking of compounds that are planned to go into humans as a pharmaceutical drug. And then, of course, it's even more important to know exactly what it contains. Has the active ingredient remained intact, or is that degrading? Are there byproducts being formed? And to test this, you produce your desired compound and you put it in a temperature chamber. For example, you test 8 degrees, like a fridge, 20 degrees, and maybe accelerated 40 degrees. And then you take samples after 3 months, after 6 months, after 12 months. And this is very key, since one core offering applying LaminarPace is to achieve really good thermostability. So it's a very key readout for us, of course, to show that thanks to our formulation and drying treatment, you can keep your product without any concern for an extended time and in probably also an extended temperature.
And the option to license part of this agreement, why is that such an important part?
It's very, very pleasing to us that this big pharma, the big pharma player, where we signed the second agreement on July 17th, that was a clearly longer negotiation. We have negotiated for many months to put all the items in place. And we have structured now, we have a feasibility study, which is starting right now. We have a second proof of the concept with stability study. But then the partner has asked to get an option for a license. So that means that if this is successful, we cannot go forward for the same technology space with another player near term. So near term, they are so eager to secure their rights that they have asked for an option already now. So this is extremely positive, really.
And mRNA is, of course, central to both agreements here. Why would you say that mRNA is such a top priority for industry players right now, and what makes LaminarPace in particular so interesting to them right now?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we have the capability to work on many compounds, but the industry is really seeing a big shift here. I've been in pharma for more than 25 years now, in pharma industry, and we used to think that there were only small improvements left now, and niche drugs and orphan drugs to be developed. But now suddenly, as the COVID pandemic really forced humanity to come up with a solution, and the development on mRNA platform had come a very long way behind the scene. And suddenly the pandemic allowed that to be implemented extremely fast, and it was implemented with very high security, very high safety for the patient. And we haven't seen any, I mean, with the number of millions and millions of people who have been vaccinated with this technology, it's an amazing new platform. And now the industry can see that if just some issues on better delivery forms and most of our stability can be solved, then this will be a core base for a broad range of treatments across any kind of indication, more or less. So it's an opening for the pharmaceutical industry we haven't seen for decades, to come up with such an interesting new modality and platform. And hence there is enormous investment in the industry. So it's not just to aim for the long-time treatment, because that is always taking time. But as Ziccum, we can also aim for the near-term investment that is poured into this part of the industry. And all players are really trying to either accelerate their efforts or come into the field.
And is it fair to say now that Ziccum is primarily an mRNA company, or because you've previously stated that you prioritize other vaccine platforms as well?
Yeah, that's also a very good question, because we are clearly hanging on to our core strategy with 3 vaccine platforms. We focus on vaccines because the doses are a good fit with LaminarPace. It's a very good technology for mankind to give prophylactic vaccines. And we have still project discussions for all 3 platforms. But as we see the biggest potential in mRNA, and we see this enormous industry interest combined with our really good results in this area, it's clearly the top focus, that's for sure. And just like you said, this is where we now have signed 2 very significant agreements.
And you have, of course, carried out a lot of business development this year, both in the US as well as in Europe. How important would you say that these activities have been to the growth of the project pipeline?
Yeah, it's a complete game changer. It's as we have this new business model, we have new capabilities to approach the most important players, and we have implemented a very ambitious plan with high level events in many countries and all across the year. So this has changed the picture completely.
And are you planning on more events now in the second half of this year?
Absolutely. We have a very nice lineup now. I'm just back from the mRNA Summit in Boston in July. We are going to New York for an investors selected company event in New York in October. So where only companies with really pivotal, groundbreaking new technology are allowed to present. And there are US investors. So that's, of course, a great step for us to take. And then after that, we will be in the Bio Europe partnering event for pharma based on technology exchange. And then we will also attend Nordic Life Science Days in Copenhagen this year.
Overall, how many dialogues are there in today's project pipeline? And is there a limit to how many projects you can actually take on? I mean, Ziccum is still a small company.
There's certainly a limit to how many projects we can start up and run, because we have to focus and make sure we do an excellent job in each project. But at the same time, a lot of dialogue is needed to get to the projects. You typically need at least 10 good dialogues to land one project, even if it's high caliber dialogues. And then you would need 10 projects to have 1 or 2 drugs actually going forward in the pipeline. So we need to work very intensely on the pipeline, and we have several tenths of dialogues running. And we have good chances of more projects, that's for sure.
I wanted to leave the audience with one final question that I think is important. How will these new agreements benefit the industrial development and commercialization of LaminarPace? Do you foresee that these agreements actually will have a big impact on the industrial development to start with?
Yeah, I mean, it's the fantastic first step to be in dialogue with the best possible partners. We couldn't wish for better companies. Actually, if we could pick one big pharma and one biotech, we would pick these companies. So that's amazing. And of course, there's always the risk that we don't get perfect readouts. We have to prove the technology, obviously. But even if one, or worst case, both would not go forward, we are right now learning so much from these top class players that the collaboration already now is very, very important to Ziccum and to the LaminarPace development.
And thank you very much for taking the time. I look forward to follow you on your growth trajectory here going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.